Hi everyone, my name is Chloe. I'm 20 years old. Have you ever had a feeling that you're being followed and watched wherever you go? I sometimes have this strange feeling that wherever I go, someone is closely watching me. And recently, I have got a secret stalker which is chasing me all the time. But let me tell you everything from the very beginning. I have great looks and I am a natural beauty. And throughout all of my life, I have been always followed by guys. It was always such a stress for me. When I was at school, I had a really big problem with that. Every guy I ever knew at school asked me for a date. All the girls around me were always jealous of me and hated me. I could never make friends with them. Whenever a girl would introduce me to her boyfriend, he would immediately forget about her and follow me instead. And the worst thing was that I was to blame for all of it. Although I never planned evil things in my life. It's the guys who just hit on me and make my life so stressful. It was also a very hard time for my boyfriends as well. Whenever I would get a new boyfriend, his friends would hate him and bully him, as he was now dating the most beautiful girl in town. Every time when my boyfriend and I would go out hand in hand, we would face a very aggressive attitude of all our friends and community. My annoying fans would attack and bully my boyfriend so that he would have to be on the lookout every minute. They would damage his car, paint it with obscenities, and puncture his tires. It was quite an effort to always fight with my fans and get new bruises every day and have your car and property damaged. Usually, my boyfriend would just have enough of it and drop me for good. Or, in some cases, I would get frustrated and would drop my boyfriend for another one. I was dating very different guys. Some of them were handsome professional athletes, but I also dated some nerds and squishes as well. And sometimes I made quite a good use of it. For example, having my homework done has never been a problem for me. My then boyfriend Stuart had an outstanding IQ, and his friend nerds were happy to do math tests for me, just to see my nice smile. Our school bully Andrew was rude to my best friend. No problem, I know how to teach him a lesson. My boyfriend Ash and his local football team would make a fight and teach a good lesson to Andrew if I just show up at their football game and have their game blessed with my beauty. I always had it all easy. Even when I was taking my driving license exam, I just got into the car and turned the keys, and the exam inspector gave me a big hearty smile and said, "You passed the exam. Good luck. Next." So, throughout all of my life, I have always been in the spotlight. My mother wanted me to pursue a top model career, but I didn't want to. After I graduated from school, I moved to another city and enrolled in a college to become a veterinarian, because I love animals. And they love me. And most importantly, they love me not because of my looks, but because it's just me. So I started my new life in college. While I was studying, I got a job at a local hotel not far from my college. Getting a job was easy. It was just enough to bat my beautiful eyes and smile to the hotel director. There was also a restaurant at the hotel. I worked part-time as a waitress there, although I didn't really need all this money that much. The owner of my rented apartment was ready to rent it out for me for a minimum rate. And my boyfriend was taking me to restaurants and bought me everything I wanted. So whatever I earned, I just saved up. As soon as I got an idea what to spend my money on, I decided to help homeless animals and have a shelter built for them. So I lived a very easy life until all of a sudden a very strange thing happened to me. I've got a secret stalker following me. It was the first time it happened in my life. And this time, it wasn't just my annoying freak fans from the past. This time, it was the real danger, like they show in thriller movies. It all started when one of the restaurant's dishwashers got sick, and they asked me to take her job for a while. I agreed, and so I started staying up late at work and taking night shifts. Last week, there was a great banquet in the restaurant, and with a lot of dirty dishes left, I had to stay at work until midnight. It was already late and dark. I changed my clothes in the back room, and I got this feeling that someone was looking at me through the window. I turned around, but I didn't see anyone. A half an hour later, as I was walking through the parking lot, I once again had this feeling that someone was watching me. Somebody was hiding behind the cars. I got scared and I quickly ran away. I decided to take a faster way home through the park. It was late autumn. I ran as fast as I could, but my follower was running after me. I could hear the ruffle of leaves under his feet. When I finally got home, I closed the front door and locked it. Then I looked out of the windows, but there was no one around. I couldn't sleep for the whole night. I heard some noises and ruffles around my house. My pursuer was still there. Then I called my boyfriend and he immediately came to help me out. He walked around my house for a long time with a flashlight and a bat in his hand, but my pursuer was gone. It was only in the morning that I finally fell asleep, safely in the arms of my boyfriend. His name is Dave and he is really great. He's handsome, he's rich, and he has even got a black belt in martial arts. So I'm totally confident he can protect me. After this accident, Dave suggested that I quit my job and move in to live with him. But I said no. I didn't want to do it. I had my own major goal to reach, to earn my own money and organize a shelter to help homeless animals. The next day, it all happened again. My boss asked me to take another night shift in the restaurant and I stayed up late at work. And again, someone was watching me by the window. I could feel somebody's eyes on me all the time. I turned around and I looked outside a couple of times, but there was no one in the window. Then I looked out from the back door and yes, there was someone in the parking lot again. He was waiting for me. I got scared and called Dave again. He arrived in just 1 minute, but my pursuer again disappeared. Dave drove me home in his car and stayed this night with me again, but this time it was all quiet and nobody walked outside. The next day I went to work. My co-workers greeted me as usual and told me compliments. I was always in the spotlight, as always. I didn't pay much attention to it before, but now I got scared of their glances. What if my pursuer is one of them? Suddenly, I caught Jay's eye. A big guy, a restaurant waiter. What if it was him? Once I humiliated him in public and I called him a dummy when he dropped a tray full of food and drinks in the restaurant area. Our boss got angry, he yelled and scolded him, and now the whole team is calling Jay a dummy. And then I got the eye of our bartender Eric. One day, I smashed an expensive bottle of cognac that was standing on the bar. I got away with it then. However, later, the cost of this bottle was deducted from his salary. What if it was him? Then, when I was taking the dirty tablecloths to the laundry, I met a cleaner on the way. His name was Barney. What a disgusting character. He looked like an old pirate from the pirate sagas I saw in the movies. He was once fired because of me, but then he was hired back. So this is how it happened. Once I was in a big hurry to run home after my work shift and I was running down the staircase and I knocked off his mop water bucket. And later that evening, Mr. Hilton, the owner of the hotel, slipped on the spilled water, fell down on the floor and broke his leg. He got really mad about it and he decided to punish Barney for his mistake and he fired him. When I found out about it, I felt so sorry for the old man that I went to Mr. Hilton and asked him to please take him back. Mr. Hilton listened to me and agreed to hire him back, but he still left him without his annual bonus pay. What if Barney had a grudge against me and he's my chaser? By the way, Mr. Hilton could have been my chaser too. Once he asked me for a date, but I said no because he has a wife and 2 children. Now, when we meet at a planning meeting or in a hotel, he's constantly staring at me like a maniac. Anyone could be my chaser. And also this strange guy in dark glasses who is constantly coming to dinner at our restaurant at the same time and is constantly staring at me when I make coffee at the bar. I didn't see his eyes as he was wearing his glasses, but he obviously came to the restaurant because of me. One day I came home and I found out that someone was lying on my bed. Only the apartment owner, Dave, and myself had the keys. Could it be Dave? I called him, but he said it wasn't him. Then I looked around and I saw long red hair on the bed. I just burst with anger. Dave was cheating on me while I was at work. No one ever cheated on me in my life. I felt so hurt. I called Dave, yelled at him, and then I immediately broke up with him. He seemed confused. He denied he did it. But I was furious and mad at him. After this, my secret pursuer came back again. Apparently, he found out that Dave was no longer around. At this point, I was so scared to go out that I decided to take a day off work. I called them and I said that I was sick. Later that day, my pursuer came back. He walked around in the house again, and I even heard his hard and strong breath. I was sitting in my room, desperate with fear, and I was so scared that I couldn't move. I was trying to remember all of the guys whom I could possibly insult or offend at some moment in my life, and my pursuer kept walking around the house and breathing heavily. Then I finally broke down into tears and I yelled, "Who are you and what do you want from me?" But he said nothing. It was all quiet. Finally, I grabbed the bat and ran out into the street. Someone was hiding in the bushes behind the house. I shouted to him to leave immediately, but no one came out. And then my pursuer disappeared again. I called the police. They came and looked around, but they didn't find anything suspicious. So they just shrugged their shoulders and left. I went back to the house and fell asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night from the noise in the kitchen. When I turned on the lights, I just froze in horror. Everything was smashed. The plates fell on the floor and were all broken. The strong wind shook the door open. Outside, there was a heavy rain and a strong thunderstorm. It was like a real horror movie, but I couldn't relax and enjoy it. And then the lightning flashed, and for a second I saw two burning eyes outside the window. I quickly slammed the door and closed the lock. I grabbed the phone and dialed 911, but the phone was silent and the charging battery was dead. I was standing by the door and then I heard his heavy breath again. I was panic-stricken and all in tears and I screamed, "What do you want? Who are you? Tell me!" I was screaming loud and you know what? My pursuer disappeared again. I could no longer tell for sure whether someone was really following me or if I was just losing my mind. But one thing that I learned for sure was that my stalker was very sensitive to loud voices and shouts. I realized it was my only weapon against him. If he shows up again, all I have to do is to scream out loud. I didn't sleep for half a night as I was waiting for him. He came back at around 2 a.m., walked around the house again and breathed heavily. I quietly sneaked to the back door, turned off the lights and left the door open. Then I hid by the door with a bat in my hands and waited. Soon I felt a heavy breath and then I saw a long black shadow. I was planning to attack him as soon as he came inside, and then I immediately closed the door so he wouldn't escape. I quickly turned on the lights and I screamed and I swung my bat. But then I almost got paralyzed. I was shocked by what I saw. Right in front of me, there was a large, shaggy, red-colored collie dog. As it heard me screaming, it closed his eyes and tried to run away and hide under the sofa. Then it quietly whined and I heard a familiar, heavy breath. So it was that dog who's been following me all this time and was looking into my window. I just sat down on the floor and I laughed for a long time. I couldn't believe that such a kind and sweet dog could have frightened me that much. Just look at this poor darling. How can it upset anyone at all? I reached and patted the dog. The dog finally felt safe. It sniffed my hand and it put his head on my knees. And then I saw it had a name written on his collar, Sam. "So you're a lost dog, my dear," I said. "Do not worry. We'll find your owner and we'll get you back." While I was petting the dog, I found out that his red hair was identical to the hair I had found in my bed. So that's who was lying on my bed. It turned out Dave didn't cheat on me. Poor Dave. But anyway, our relationship wasn't getting anywhere, so I was thinking of dumping him soon. Thank you, Sam, for your red hair in my bed. The next day, I went to work and took Sam with me. There was this strange guy standing outside the restaurant, the one who was always looking at me in a strange way. Sam saw him and cheerfully waved its tail. Then he quickly ran up to the guy and barked. I knew I'd find you sooner or later. The guy smiled and petted the dog. And then he took off his glasses, and I saw that he was blind. I felt such a shame that I secretly suspected him of chasing me before. I stopped by the guy and we had a chat. He said his name was Mark. I found out that he never looked in my direction at all. He was just smelling the coffee I made. He told me our restaurant makes the best coffee in town, so he came to us every day. Also, he told me that Sam is also a great aficionado of coffee smell, so Mark thought he should look for Sam somewhere close to our restaurant. Sam got lost just a few weeks ago. One day, on the way to the coffee shop, Mark and Sam met a nasty woman who yelled at Sam. And Sam cannot stand it when people yell or make some loud noises, so he got scared and ran away. That's why my pursuer disappeared every time after a loud noise or a scream. Why did Sam pursue me all this time, you would ask? He saw me walking down the street and I smelled of coffee. I spilled it on my uniform the day before. Time passed and Mark and I started dating each other. Sam is also with us. We are a dream team. Thus, a thriller story that happened in my life turned out into a happy love story. Have you ever had such hilarious situations in your life like I did? Share them in the comments, and if you like the story, like and subscribe to the channel.